Welcome back to Ask a Corner, the podcast where we answer questions people have always wanted to ask about death investigations. I'm Mark Hammond, the Boyd County Coroner.
I'm Bailey Rucker, Deputy Coroner.
And tonight we're doing episode 12.
We're rolling through them.
So we knocked them down. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some myths, and we're going to talk about what really happens in an autopsy and why we do autopsies. And one of the biggest myths is there's like 3 million people that die a year across the United States, but only about 1 in 8 of those are truly autopsied.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, that's not true. You know, why or where do those numbers even come from? And you start looking, and why isn't everybody autopsied? I mean, if we're watching TV, what happens?
Yeah, everybody's autopsied.
Yeah, everybody gets autopsied.
Hello, Ducky. It's what I want to be. I want to be Ducky because he autopsies everybody.
So he autopsies everybody. And then you took this job and look what happens.
Yeah, here I am.
So it's like not everybody gets autopsied. So we're going to kind of talk about those and knock out some myths that goes along with that.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, it's kind of why we got started in this, kind of taking the Hollywood out of reality and seeing what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. If families can refuse an autopsy, why we send people, different things like that. So when you're looking at autopsies, like you said, probably 8% of people actually get autopsied. How do you figure out why you're sending somebody?
The first thing we look at is we want to know the history behind, or the story really behind why somebody died. Why did they die? And so after our investigation, we start piecing that together. So do they have a medical history? What's their age? All that stuff plays a role in the circumstances behind their death. And when we look at all that, can we truly say why that person died? And if we can do that with other testing, then and prove why they died, then we're not going to put a family through why we have to autopsy. And that's where the TV comes in, because we get asked a whole lot. Number one, everybody thinks somebody murdered somebody. That's the first myth that we get. Something had to happen to them. They didn't do that themselves. Why did this happen, or what happened? And then we have to look at, can we truly come up with a cause and manner of death by the circumstances behind it, the toxicology we do, and then the postmortem examination we do. And a lot of people confuse a postmortem examination with an autopsy, and it's two totally different things.
Yeah.
So let's talk first about postmortem exam. So everybody that we deal with gets a postmortem exam. This is an external exam that we see the body at the scene, but we also take that body and we take it back to our morgue to where we can get a better view of the body. We have better lights in there, so we have better lighting. We don't have any obstructions. They're on a table to where we can actually see everything. Everything's cut off of them, all their clothes, everything's cut off to where we can look and see, and we're looking for any bruises. We're looking for any wounds to them, any type of trauma that we can notice, anything that just sticks out and says, oh, wait a minute, this shouldn't be here.
This is abnormal.
And then after that, if we can prove why it's there, it may be as much as a pressure mark on somebody. Somebody laying against something, such as the signs that Michael makes. Yeah. See, we're giving these away. And Michael's going to be giving these away, and they're going to be pretty cool signs. But say somebody that died and was laying on one of these signs for any length of time, to a normal person that doesn't investigate death or anything, they may say, oh, well, somebody had to do something to them. But if we can take that and point out and show that was something pressed against something, then we rule that out right away.
And that's something we see with lividity that we've talked about, what you're talking about with the impression, kind of the way the blood pools and different things like that.
Exactly. And so if we can prove those things, then we're not sending them off for an autopsy. If we think the toxicology is going to come back and help us prove why somebody died, there's no reason to send them off for autopsy. So we start ruling things out just like we would any other death. And then we put everything on the table and it's like, okay, if this and this and this is all true, then we can prove why somebody died. Then we're not going to spend that time autopsying them. We're going to do nothing more than the postmortem exam. Then we look, if we can't do that and everything doesn't match up and it's not 100%, then of course we're going to autopsy. So, but there's a lot of myths behind that. And that's where we want to be tonight of what happens in an autopsy and how we're going to prove or disprove something.
So there has to be a reason for an autopsy. And back to the number situation, around 3 million people die in the United States. That's about like 26,000 in Kentucky, meaning if we stay on that, 1 in 8 to 10 people, probably 2,500 autopsies are happening a year.
And you're close because the last statistics showed almost it was like 2,930 something, whatever it was. But it was right at 3,000 people. So when you add that to how many people died in Kentucky, we're getting close to that number.
Yeah.
And some offices will autopsy a lot more than others. We like to make sure we're sending somebody for autopsy for a reason and not just to be sending them. Let's look at children. If it's a child, especially somebody less than 18, 99.999%, they're going for autopsy. We may still know why they passed away or why they died, but we want to cover every basis. If it's a sudden death in somebody's young age, say somebody's 18, 20, even in their 30s, we're probably going to send that person if we don't have any other history at all. They have no high blood pressure, they have no heart disease, they have no diabetes, they have no cancers, they're not on really any medications, and it's a sudden death. That person goes for autopsy. And what we've seen a lot of times with younger people, if we send those for autopsy, we've actually found things that not necessarily forensically, and we'll talk the difference between a medical autopsy and a forensic autopsy, but what we find is something that may help other family members, that it may be something congenital, and it may be a congenital disease such as heart disease or anything like that. And if that's the case, then we want other family members to know that too. So those come into play.
We've been approached about that too. Like a lot of times, even if it's, maybe an elderly person or something, but their family members will say, hey, there was kind of maybe an inkling that we had this disease in our family. Is he going to autopsy to maybe prove that so that we would know just for ourselves?
Correct. And that happens. And we do that a lot of times with a lot of younger people, instead of like, if somebody has a lot of age on them, a lot of times it's up to the ME whether they're going to autopsy them or not, just for that reason. So we also offer that up if we know the cause and manner of death, say we know why that person died, then the family by all rights can have an autopsy, but they have to pay for that autopsy because that's a private autopsy. And let's go to a myth real quick. We'll throw a myth out there that an autopsy is going to tell everything that we need to know about a death. And that's a huge myth because that's not true. We can autopsy, and an autopsy is going to say, okay, that person had a heart attack. It's not going to tell that. It's going to tell that one of the vessels may be dilated. It may tell that it has heart disease, that a normal heart should weigh between 300 and 325 grams, and this person has a heart that is 500 or 600 grams. So now we know that it has an enlarged heart. So, but it's not going to narrow that down like you think it would. And a lot of people have that misconstrued that, oh, it's going to tell me this, and it's not going to do that.
Like point blank. Yeah. And to piggyback off of a previous episode where we explained that natural causes are actually the leading cause of death, and people don't think that, especially in the corner world, because we show up on a scene and everybody thinks the worst. It's a homicide, it's a suicide, different things like that. So an autopsy, I think also it maybe varies by states, but Kentucky has statutes that will actually lay down the line of what is going to be sent no matter what.
Correct. And like anything that happens as an in custody death, anything that's in custody, it goes for autopsy no matter what. Anything that is most, well, I won't say anything, but 99.9%, if it's a child, it'll go. Now, if a child has several diseases, that's going to be a natural death, and we have a lot of those. We've had more of those probably this year than in a lot of years.
Yeah.
But with that also we will consult with the medical examiner and say, okay, hey, this is what we have. This is the case that we know. Do you still want it? And most of the time, we'll go ahead and send it just so everything's covered. We know it didn't die from something else for that matter. But if it's any type of accident on a younger person, it goes. Any homicide goes. Suicides, or somebody that does self harm, somebody that self harms themselves, uh, may or may not go. If it is something to do with a projectile and it's still in them, then we send them automatically because we want the projectile.
The projectile becomes evidence.
That's correct. So we have to have that, and we'll go ahead and send that down. So anything like that goes. We look at age a lot of times, and even if we know the cause of death, let's go back to an overdose, and we know that we found drugs around the scene, and this person is 21, 22 years old, up to probably in their mid 30s. We'll be like, there's nothing else there. We're going to send it. And then it's up to the medical examiner's office in this state, anyways. We work on a coroner medical examiner's system. So with us, we send it, and it's up to them. They can do a complete external, which we could have done here, and toxicology, which we could have done here, and send it back to us. And that's all fine and good, but they still have to give us a cause and manner of death. What happens if that toxicology comes back negative? Then we have to look at another cause. So those become very important when we're trying to put that together.
So now walk us through, like, from start to finish, an autopsy. What led you to send one, and then what actually happens once you're in that building and in the room watching an autopsy?
So the first thing is we have to get that person ready to go, and that matters a lot. The way we have to do that. So if we take the person's in the body bag, we have to make sure that they have two tags. One has to be on the toe, the other one has to be on the outside of the bag. Then the bag is sealed. We seal the bag with a special numbers that we use, and we write down those numbers in our case files, and then it goes to Frankfurt for us. So we put transporter will take that body down. It will get down there. They bring it up. It has to be checked in. They have a guard there that makes sure everything is exactly like it should. So with the guard, the name has to match. Who signed it has to match. All that stuff has to match. Then it goes into a computer system. Everything has to be done. The body has to be weighed. So it gets weighed. Then it goes into the autopsy suite. Once it gets in there, all the paperwork's checked to make sure everything's right.
Everything has to be right.
Before they even touch it.
Down to a period of a sentence tag on it.
It all has to be there. If you forget something, then it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. You're driving home and you're fixing it and going back the next day.
Exactly. So it puts everything back. So we try to make sure everything is perfect. So then in our cases, most of our cases, whoever takes that body down stays with that body. Some places that doesn't happen, but the reason we do that is in case the medical examiner has a lot of questions. If they have questions, that person should be able to answer it or at least get the answer for them.
And
Uh,
most of the time with that, we usually send somebody that was on scene.
exactly. It makes all the sense in the world to make sure that that person has something to do with that case,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it pretty neat to be able to do that. So they stay with the body the whole time. The body is moved out of our body bag onto their table. And from there, there's measurements taken, the height, the weight, all that goes into the file. Once that happens, then they even measure like how long the hair is.
Mm-hmm.
That's measured. They go over the body just like we do with pictures, and they document any wounds whatsoever. Any wounds that's found there, any type of bruising, anything like that is measured, it's scaled and photographed.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get into the big Y incision that everybody sees on TV. So they make a Y incision into the chest, and all the organs at that time, they're brought out one by one a lot of times. So everything's looked at to see if anything's obvious
Mm-hmm.
first. And then everything is looked at, it's weighed, it's documented. If it is, say, the heart, they'll weigh the heart and then they section that heart. And when they section the heart, they want to make sure they're looking for anything from clots to making sure if the vessels are dilated, any trauma done, anything like that, any
Yeah.
scarring. They look at the stomach contents. That plays a role sometimes, depending on what we're looking for, is if there's any stomach contents and what's in there. Uh, we've had people before, and it's usually like we've had a federal prisoner one time that we took down, and he died suddenly. Was cardiac arrest, brought into the ER. We start working it, and it's like, there's something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, it's in custody death, so he gets autopsied, and he had a balloon, and where he'd swallowed a balloon, and it was full of drugs, and that balloon had busted, which in turn caused him to overdose.
Mm-hmm.
Once they started into the stomach contents, there was the balloon.
Yeah.
It's like here it is. We've had people before that's overdosed, and the pills have not been dissolved, not all the pills. So we find pills in the stomach. All that stuff becomes very important to us. Uh, and an autopsy a lot of times can be specific.
Yeah.
It may be the fact that all they want to look at is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
All they want to look at is the lungs. So all those become, it can be just a separate thing that we're looking just for that one thing. And then, or it can be a full autopsy. It just depends on what it is.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, they're kind of specified maybe to the case sometimes. So, with maybe them just doing an external exam, checking trajectories or retrieving projectiles, sometimes the trajectories are kind of one of the most intriguing parts because they can literally look through and through and say, yes, the maybe shooter was standing at this angle, or like different things like that is super intriguing about an autopsy.
And that becomes very important
Yeah.
because if if somebody has had to use a weapon to shoot somebody and they do exactly what you said, they'll run rods or trajectory and make sure that angle is exactly
Mm-hmm.
like it's supposed to be, instead of going, oh, wait a minute, there's no way what you're telling me compared to where that bullet is
Yeah.
that could have happened.
Yeah.
And so we rule things out. And that's where forensics comes in a lot. And
Mhm.
forensics, you're exactly right. It's probably the most intriguing thing about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really confuse medical autopsies compared to forensic autopsies.
Mhm.
We do more forensic autopsies than we do anything. The documentation of the wounds, the documentation of the injuries, things like that, to where the medical part of that really goes more as if a family truly wants to pay for an autopsy.
Yeah.
And that's a private autopsy then.
Mhm.
And used to, a long time ago, the hospital had a pathologist. And a lot of times autopsies were done here, and they were done at the hospital because it was just a medical autopsy and we didn't need anything forensically done.
Mhm. It's insane to me because that's like what you see on TV now, like in Grey's Anatomy. Like their hospital has you don't see it often in the show, but they will send one downstairs for an autopsy occasionally, And now we have the morgue at the hospital, and even if it is, a death in the hospital, we're going to send it to Frankfurt.
Exactly. Yeah, because I don't watch Grays, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no, well, see, Ducky is the forensics guy in NCIS, but Gray's, yeah, it's hospital setting, so it's
so
different.
if you go to bigger hospitals, you're exactly right,
Yeah.
because
Like UK, I'm sure has one in house.
they do it in house.
Yeah.
You go to U of L, it's in house. They
Yeah.
have medical schools, so it's great that they are doing that and are able to see the process, especially the disease process.
Yeah.
Trauma's easy. You see something, and it's like, yeah, it's a bullet hole. They bled out. They did this. Compared to, okay, there's a disease process.
Mhm.
One of the biggest things in the disease process that we see in this area, and it's from just living in the area that we live in, from black lung and asbestosis and all this
Mhm.
other things that happen when there's a lot of law firms that's paying out for asbestosis and things like that. Families will want that done, and all they specifically want is to see what their lungs look like, what their loved one's lungs look like. We don't do that. We would give them permission, or we would say, okay, this is the cause of manner. If you want that done, here's some numbers. Work with the funeral home, and the funeral home will work with that person to have that done. And then we're kind of totally out of that after that point.
And one of like the most interesting points, like when I was shadowing at the medical examiner's office and things, it's like everybody's biggest question is, why do you have to be a doctor to be a pathologist, to be a forensic pathologist, to do autopsies? And that's the things I think people don't truly realize, is that they are studying disease processes. They are literally going in and looking at somebody's organs and seeing how it affected them on the back end. So they have to know that full disease to see how it affects and say, okay, yes, that disease could have caused this person's death.
Exactly. And you look at diabetes, you look at hypertension. Hypertension is a silent killer.
Yeah.
Just for the simple fact of it causes so many other problems with the body and the disease processes that follows through with that. So I think that's why it's so important. And it may be the fact that they pull samples of stuff like that, and those samples take forever to come back. Where that's something you don't get back easily. So you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting, trying to figure that out. But in the back end of that, they have had to send all that off to have that taken care of, and to get the answers that they're looking for, to give you and the family that closure that we need, and close the case out.
So in Kentucky specifically, our MEs aren't on scene with us. So what are kind of some of the things that you put in a file to help paint that picture for them, to make them feel like they were on scene and they have a well-rounded picture to look, and like when they're looking at organs, they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. This makes sense. I can say this like with confidence.
Well, and one of the biggest things that we see, I think, that we make sure that we have is we try to send them a whole case file. So we may not have medical records because it takes, depending on when that person died, we may not have access to those yet. But we do have access to all of our scene photos. We have access to our coroner's report that's already typed up, that we type up. Any medicines that they have or that we found, all that's on there. So basically, what we do when we do ours is we duplicate every single thing that we have, and we give that over to the medical examiner. That way they can see the pictures and they can look and say, oh, that makes sense. This is this or this is that, to where they may want to look through all the pictures. They may not do it right then, but all those pictures go on a jump drive. We used to do CDs. Now CDs are a thing of the past pretty much. We do them in our case files because
I even had CDs in my day.
Now it's like, okay, we need a flash drive. So it's like, okay, let's do a flash drive. So take the flash drive and it goes. One of the cool things is when we bring the flash drive now, that I like, is we get their autopsy pictures.
Yeah.
So we kind of share back and forth. So I have those autopsy pictures if we send somebody to autopsy. So I also have a better look at what they saw
Mhm.
compared to also what we saw on the scene. So I think all those come together.
Yeah.
And working as a team, I really like having a coroner medical examiner system for that reason,
Mhm.
because they in turn can take everything we have and we share and come up with that conclusion of this is what it is.
Yeah. And like you're just saying, everything is still like cohorts. Like everybody is working together. So there's multiple times where detectives that were on scene with us will also go down because they want their own pictures of autopsy. They want to run over their evidence with the MEs. They want to do all of these things and get those answers for them too and share their information.
Yeah, and everybody coordinates. So
Mhm.
what'll happen is, especially if evidence has to be collected, we don't want to collect that evidence. We want the law enforcement that we're working with to collect the evidence, to take that evidence and be responsible for that.
Mhm.
So in turn, what ends up happening is we'll collectively agree on a time. We're going to be at the medical examiner's office at 7:30, and the detective or whoever it is will meet us there, and they will start collecting the evidence, any clothing, anything that's found, anything like that that's going to be part of that case file. They will take that, so they get every bit of that, and then we just worry about the body.
Mhm.
And that makes a big difference, and it helps them a lot to understand everything about that case as if they're with us. If they stay back, then they're going to know only what we tell them, and something may get missed. So
Mhm.
we want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Mhm. And with evidence collection at the ME's office too, they do different things. Like they do kind of like a full sample card. They can do assault kits, they can fingernails, hair, extra blood samples, all kinds of things like that that stay within their system and kind of, but then get shared with us once they're back.
Correct. If it's a homicide case, then we want to make sure we bag hands. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
bag those hands after we get good pictures and stuff, because we don't want to lose evidence. It's like if we go to move a body and if we think it's a homicide for any reason whatsoever, we will move that body with a clean white sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people's like, why do you do that? Well, we don't want to lose anything.
It's an
So
extra level of
yeah, it's
precaution.
just an extra level of catching anything that
Yeah.
that may drop. The fingernails a lot of times get clipped. There is where they're going to get clipped at for DNA.
Mm-hmm.
DNA becomes so important now compared to when you go back 10 years ago. You didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you do. We look at the clothing that comes off. We want to make sure that clothing goes in where it needs to go, into the proper bags. It's sealed, it's tagged, everything's perfect. Those become very important to a case. And we want to make sure that we don't lose anything, or anything doesn't get misplaced or anything like that in the end.
Mm-hmm. So, is there one or any case that you have in mind where an autopsy really changed the case around?
I think there's several. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at that, um, we had a case that we thought was a self harm case that was actually a hanging.
Uh-huh.
And in turn, the xiphoid process, I was way off there. Back that up. It wasn't had nothing to do with the chest, but the hyoid bone was broke.
Mhm.
Well, most people don't realize that it takes very little pressure to break that. But in reality, in hangings, the hyoid bone is only broke probably less than 1 or 2% of the time.
Where is the highway bone for?
It's in right here in the throat. So you're looking right in the front. And a lot of that's made out of cartilage. So it's not,
Yeah.
when people do self harm like that with a hanging, a lot of times they will sit down, or they
Mhm.
will just step off something, and it's not a far step.
Mhm.
And so when that came back and the ME's office called and was like, hey, we got a problem. The highway bone was broke.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. So then we start calling. and getting the whole story. And that one was interesting. And what was interesting about it was the reason it was broke when everything come to play and the whole picture come out. The reason it was broke was it came from a distance. That person had actually like stepped down from a height,
Mm-hmm.
and that height alone is what snapped that and broke that. Instead of a asphyxiation type of death because of the self harm, it was actually when you stepped off like that, the noose was tied in the wrong place, or I won't say wrong place. It did its job,
Mm-hmm.
but it was tied where it broke that bone just from the weight and the sudden stop, and that's what snapped it. And so it wasn't a murder, but we thought, wait a minute,
It made you
yeah, it made you
take a
second
step back.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, there was a case one time of a younger person that collapsed suddenly and died, and in turn what it come out to be was a congenital thing with a heart,
Mm-hmm.
and the heart was like 2 or 3 times bigger than what it should have been in that person of that age. And so in turn other people in the family got tested, and sure enough another sibling had the same issue but just didn't know it. They've been
Mm-hmm.
treating that person for a long time for asthma issues, because they were having problems breathing when they exerted themselves and running and things like that. And you were thinking, okay, that person's young, it's asthma, it's this, and they blow that off a lot of times because a lot of the first thing people want to think of it's asthma.
Mm-hmm.
But in turn, what it turned out to be, once that autopsy came back, we picked up the phone and made a phone call and said, listen, we need to sit down and talk. And we think you may have something congenital in your family. And sure enough, they tested and their heart was enlarged. And it was from a viral thing, not from congenital, but they would have never caught that. And something tragic could have happened with other siblings. So, in turn, that helped out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where it really comes into play that it's like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, this really helped that family, and it really helped everybody understand the whole case better.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, now let's bust some of the myths and some things that we hear all the time. Obviously, we've already answered. Is every autopsy mean it's a homicide?
Not at all.
No, not even close. Um, do coroners perform autopsies?
No. Coroners, we perform external examinations that are more or less post-mortem examinations is what they're called. And all we're doing is external. We're looking, we're documenting anything externally that's going to stick out. So coroners do not do autopsies. In we're lucky in Kentucky, like you said earlier. Only forensic pathologists in Kentucky will do the autopsies as far as what's in the medical examiner's office.
Yeah.
There are that people that are pathologists that will do medical autopsies all the time. And those are the two myths that people get confused a lot of times. It's just a misunderstanding a lot of times.
This is one that I think we get all the time, and that's, can a family still have an open casket after an autopsy?
Absolutely. Funeral homes are wonderful, number one. We work with great funeral homes, and funeral homes can do a whole lot to make that person, you don't even know that they've had an autopsy. A lot of times. And I think that really shows where the funeral homes come in, and the work that they do is very meticulous a lot of times, because to embalm somebody a lot of times takes a lot longer when they've had that full autopsy compared to somebody that hasn't had an autopsy. Mm-hmm. So we try to make sure that we are able to accommodate everybody, including the family and the funeral home. We do that all the time.
Yeah. Okay, this next one, this is really, really debunking Hollywood right now, and especially my guy Ducky. I hate to do it to him, but do results come back in a day?
Not in a day, not at all.
You can't solve a whole case in a day.
So we get preliminary.
Yeah.
And most of the time it tells us very little.
Yeah.
Unless we pretty much are looking for one specific thing. And Ducky, sorry, but I want to debunk him really quick. It does not tell us anything. It tells us to wait. One thing that I will tell anybody that does this job is you better have some patience because we're lucky. We get back autopsies usually what I tell families 45 days. Give us at least 45 days because toxicology alone takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm,
It doesn't matter if it's autopsied or we draw the toxicology and send it out, it's still 2 to 3 weeks. Then they get their copies, and we have to wait all the way until we get our stuff back from the medical examiner's office before we're even going to look at signing out a death certificate.
yeah.
I had a family call the other day, very upset. It's been since March, and she wants to know why her son died or her nephew died. And I told her, as soon as I get it back, I will gladly sign it out. We'll sit down and we'll talk, but I'm not going to sign something until I have the whole picture.
Yeah.
It may be the fact that it takes a little longer because they are truly having a hard time finding out why this person died. It may not be a disease process, it may be something totally weird. We had a guy, and it's not funny at all by any means, but you start thinking, and it's like, if people's bored, they'll really do a little of anything.
Yeah.
And this was an inmate that decided to bet a bunch of commissary that he could drink. It was like 100 packets of Kool-Aid. And so he mixed 100 packets of Kool-Aid in a cup and drank this stuff. And lo and behold, he started having stomach pains. They took him to the infirmary before the ambulance got there. He went into cardiac arrest and he died. And one of the things that we collected was one of those packets. And I forget what the ingredient was, but he had so much of that in his system that that's what killed him. And everybody's
That's
like, there's
insane.
no way that can
Yeah.
happen. And it's like, yeah, it happened. And so, he drank it, he won his bet, but in turn, he didn't live to see that.
Yeah.
But little things like that, it was like, just pick up that packet and take it. It may be important.
Yeah.
So that was a weird case that we had that it's like, okay, this is why that person died.
Yeah.
So we see stuff like that, and that case took maybe 5 months to get back. Now, everybody's like, well, why can't we have it back in a day? Well, number one, how many pathologists are truly graduate a year?
Yeah.
You I mean,
Very, very little.
a forensic pathologist is in high demand.
Yeah.
They can make a ton of money in other places.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it becomes bidding wars on where they go to work at. So a lot of states and places that need medical examiners they're contracting and they work not only in this place full time, but then they work over here in this state maybe 3 times a month or whatever, and they fly them in and fly them back out. And you see that a lot in neighboring states around us, even.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what, like, not to get off topic, but it's like, even in med school, you have maybe 70 to 150, maybe, kids in a med school class. So, how many of those kids are actually going to be a forensic pathologist?
Exactly.
Like, how many are actually making that their specialty?
So, and that's the thing. And how many, once they make them the specialty,
Stay with
it and go through it.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Because as well as I do, it just doesn't happen.
No.
And
we see it with the numbers now.
Yeah, I mean, in Kentucky, we've had to shut down medical examiners' offices. And at one time, we only had one medical examiner's office in Kentucky. We used to have 4. And that's huge. And now we're slowly moving back up.
Yeah.
The pay got better, things like that, to where people are staying and people are wanting to come to Kentucky to actually do that. So that pays off a lot, I think.
Which, again, is a testament to almost be grateful that it only takes maybe 45 days to get some cases back with their caseload that they do. Because, again, numbers we mentioned earlier, they're doing, last year they did, what'd you say, almost 3,000?
Almost 3,000.
In 2 offices.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's huge. Huge when you look at numbers. So, now maybe get into, instead of myths, let's switch into questions that we get asked by families a lot. So can families refuse an autopsy?
If we need an autopsy, they cannot refuse an autopsy. And a lot of people have that myth that they can, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
We have by statute all rights to say, okay, we're doing an autopsy on that person. Now,
Mm-hmm.
will we be respectful? Yes. Will we be trying to accommodate anything they need? Yes.
Yeah.
But the autopsy, and a lot of people understand once we start talking, we're going to do only what we have to do, and we're going to make sure that that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And to give you answers, that's the thing. We need those answers.
Yeah. And I think with that comes like religious beliefs and stuff like that. We will always accommodate to the best of our ability, like everybody's standpoints, respect their values, everything like that.
And you're exactly right. A lot of times, religion comes into it. A lot of times, the ethnicity comes into it. Special things have to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and we make those happen. A lot of times, we make sure that it's told up front that this is what's going on. We tell the family, "Hey, we're only going to do whatever we have to do necessary to make sure this happens."
Mm-hmm.
That's how we handle things.
And we kind of maybe talked about this a little bit already, but can a family request an autopsy?
Yes, they can request one, but if we know the cause and manner and we can show that family this is what we think and we're 100% sure this is what it's going to come back as, then if the family still wants that, we will help them or assist them with a private autopsy. But we will not be responsible for that. We'll have them pick a funeral home. Funeral home in turn will help them get that autopsy.
Mm-hmm. So who pays for autopsies when it's private versus us needing one?
If we need one, the family's not out anything.
Mm-hmm.
That is handled all through the state. Now, if they are going to pay for one, then that price is set by whatever pathologist that's going to do that autopsy between the family and them. And yes, they would have to pay for that.
Will an autopsy delay the funeral?
Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it depends. We try our best. If somebody was to pass away right now, then we try to have them autopsied by in the morning, if nothing else, the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So it may go a day, it may go 2 days, but that's as long as usually it takes. We can have somebody uh, there that morning. We can actually have them done in about an hour, hour and a half at the most. And then we're back on the road, headed back here to where we can get that body to a funeral home to move that along.
Mm-hmm.
So we try not to delay anything like that. If they have a special request, we try to meet that as best we can.
Lastly, I think this is maybe not one that we get often, but it is a lot that people are curious about, and that's what actually happens to the organs after they're removed.
So the organs are removed and then they're placed back in the body most of the time.
Mm.
Sometimes it depends on what it is. If they need something specific, such as they may need the brain to look at or something like that, then yes, they'll keep that and that is taken care of. But 99.9% of the time, the organs are put back in and then the body is sewn back up and released back to us.
So, after everything that we've kind of talked about, painting the whole picture of an entire autopsy, why do you think autopsies are so important to our cases?
Autopsies give people true answers that we cannot answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it happens. And so people need to remember that is the biggest thing that to take away from all this today is that if an autopsy is truly needed done, then it's done for a reason. It's not done just because we think, okay, we're going to autopsy this one. This is our eighth case, so yes, let's
Yeah.
autopsy it. It's because we're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
And when we talk to a family, we want to be 100% sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that that person died, and here's the reason why they died, and we know that 100% now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we do that. It's not for any other reason. And if we can't figure that out, then by any means we're going to do that.
Yeah. It's to get rid of all the lingering questions. If there's a second thought, even to the slightest, we're gonna go to an autopsy and make sure that that family gets the right closure.
Yeah, because every family deserves that. They
Yeah.
deserve to have that closure. So we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure that happens. So, the biggest thing to take away from all this is we want to make sure that everybody understands that not everybody gets autopsied. You're looking 1 in 8, 1 in 10 people out of all the deaths that happen because we can look at a lot of medical reasons that somebody died. And as you said earlier, natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
How many autopsies do we do out of those that we send? How many come back as a natural cause? Probably 1 in 3.
Yeah.
So still sending that, it comes back to that.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew what was going on. You had a case like that probably a month and a half ago that you called me on. The person was kind of young, had a lot of medical issues, but we were like, okay, what happens if the tox comes back and it's empty? We can't really say why that person died. We know, and matter of fact, what we talked about was truly they're going to be their cause.
Yeah.
But we went ahead and sent it just to give that family that much closure to where we could take care of that and make sure they understood why they died.
Yeah. Dot our I's, cross our T's. Everybody
Yes.
wants the straight answer. So, with that being said, maybe a final closing thought. What do you wish everybody understands about autopsies after this episode?
That, number one, everybody doesn't get autopsied. Number two, that hopefully with time, it's going to give you the answers that we couldn't answer. And that's what they're there for. They're our backup. If we cannot figure this out, the biggest thing we can take away is we want to make sure that when, at the end of the day, the family truly understands why their loved one died. That's what's going to do for us.
And that's what we're here for is to give that family a little bit of closure and help them further into that grieving process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Ask a Corner. Hopefully next week we'll just keep on rolling, get another very intriguing episode. Like Mark mentioned, Michael and Tammy with Tri-State Media Services are doing this beautiful woodwork. They're going to be giving it away soon, so make sure you go on over to their page and stay tuned for that giveaway. Do all the things you need to do to get entered in it, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.